and thank you for joining us today. This is Michael Mulholland, Interim CFO of CytoDyn. Joining us on today's call is our President and CEO, Dr. Nader Pourhassan, and Dr. Jacob Lalazari. Before we begin, it is essential that we provide you with important cautionary language related to certain federal securities laws. Our remarks during today's conference call will include forward-looking statements. Forward-looking statements are not guarantees of future performance and involve known and unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors that are difficult to predict. Actual results may be materially different from any future results expressed or implied by such forward-looking statements. These risks and uncertainties include, among other matters, statements regarding leronlimab's potential efficacy in certain immunology and oncology indications, the company's ongoing ability to raise additional new capital, that clinical trials may not commence or proceed as planned, products that appear promising in early trials may not subsequently prove to be viable on safety or efficacy grounds, products may not receive regulatory approval or market acceptance, competition may reduce the commercial potential of our products, we may experience product recalls, manufacturing issues, or product liability, and our patents may be challenged or unenforceable. Although forward-looking statements help to provide complete information about the company, forward-looking statements may be less reliable than historical information. The company undertakes no obligation to update publicly these forward-looking statements, except as required by law. Please refer to our recent quarterly and annual reports filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission for more information about the risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially as compared to our current expectations. I'll now turn the call over to Dr. Nader Pourhassan.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you everyone for being on this call. Before I update everyone about leronlimab's activities, I am forced to say a few words about CytoDyn's past to shed some light on the current lawsuits from our former board members. Many investors are asking me about this, so I will explain few facts. In September of 2012, I was honored to be named CytoDyn's CEO to lead this company. But in January of 2017, a new leader was appointed as an executive chairman, and he led the company for about 18 months. But after these difficult 18 months, the board of CytoDyn made a complete turnaround by giving the leadership right back to me in July of 2018. And I had the privilege to lead the company again for the last 2 years. Now we have lawsuits from some of these former board members. In my humble opinion, the only thing that anyone needs to look at is what happened to CytoDyn during those 18 months that I was not given the leadership, and compare it to what we were blessed to do to overcome all the disappointments that those 18 months brought to CytoDyn. So here is some facts. By mid-2018, after those difficult 18 months was over, CytoDyn was left with the following situation. CytoDyn was almost $15 million in vendors payable, with many of our hospitals ready to quit and threatened letters from them due to non-payments of invoices were continuously adding up. All the laboratories almost shut down. Our manufacturing came to almost a standstill. A letter from our manufacturing in U.S. stated, all CytoDyn-related manufacturing processes are shut down until full payment is made. The situation became almost unbearable. Fundraising were at most dilutive fashion ever. A simple example is a $15 million raise during that 18 months would cost CytoDyn as much as 60 million shares of dilution. We recently raised $15 million, with only less than 3.5 million shares of dilution. Really mind-boggling. 60 million shares of dilution versus 3.5 million. 1,700% difference. Immediately after those 18 months, we started the healing process for CytoDyn's, and we were blessed to be successful. Today, all vendors are mostly caught up. Our manufacturing is well on its way, not only to generate data for our BLA, but also have more than 1 million vials manufactured just this year alone. All labs are fully engaged. All the hospitals are enrolling and are mostly fully paid. Many indications that we started but was stalled in 2017 is now fully back on track. And we are now alive better than any time in the history of CytoDyn. Our market cap is about $1.5 billion, and we are trading at a historical volume level that is probably world record for OTC company. For example, in the last 6 months alone, we have traded more than $1.2 billion, 4 times more than all the previous 11 years put together. 400% more in just past 6 months than the whole previous 11 years. Moreover, today, leronlimab is being developed for more indication than we could ever hope for. In HIV combination, HIV monotherapy, HIV prevention, GVHD, TNBC, basket trial with more than 22 solid tumor cancers, NASH, and COVID-19 mild to moderate, and COVID-19 critical patients, and soon a phase 2 in MS, and not to mention emergency IND in COVID-19, compassionate use in breast cancer, EIND in other cancers, with fast-track designation in HIV and fast-track designation in cancer, and with the BLA submitted with rolling review granted from the FDA, and with our priority review filing for approval a few days away, we believe we really have been blessed. But nonetheless, our former board members are suing us. Oh well. One last note before I give today's update. Dr. Scott Kelly, CytoDyn's chairman of the board, once told me, remember, everyone is replaceable at CytoDyn. All of our science advisors are replaceable. All of the board members, including chairman of the board, is replaceable. The CEO, CFO, CMO, everyone is replaceable. But one thing can never be duplicated again and is not replaceable, and that is, he said, leronlimab. You may sue us, hate us, or short our stock, but you can never deny that leronlimab is most likely saving some patients from the plague of coronavirus. You can never deny that certain cancer patients are alive today because of leronlimab, and you can never deny that leronlimab replaced the standard of care for certain HIV patients for almost 6 years, defying all past beliefs about single-agent therapy in HIV. And this, in my opinion, is the beginning of many good things to come. I will start my update by saying that Dr. Scott Kelly is currently forming a powerful science advisory board with many distinguished scientists from all over the world, which we cannot wait to introduce them to CytoDyn's shareholders. We will also have science advisory board for NASH, MS, and cancer, who will be top brilliant minds in their own fields. Many of them have already initiated discussions with us. We are also about to hire a certain ex-Big Pharma commercialization officer to lead CytoDyn's commercialization activities, which we believe is most needed at this time. The rest of my update starts with update about coronavirus, compassionate use, and our clinical trial. To help the world with coronavirus is our duty, and we are honored to help. However, our real shining point after COVID-19 is cancer and many other indications. And because of that, we need to start all of our clinical trials and push for approval for all of them. And every one of those trials will most likely be label expansion if we have our first approval in HIV. So, if we would like to get approval for 22 different cancers, NASH, MS, GVHD, Alzheimer, influenza, stroke, septic shock, Crohn's disease, inflammatory bowel syndrome, psoriasis, autoimmune hepatitis, and many more, then this is our plan. We will potentially initiate our monotherapy for HIV phase 3 pivotal trial this year. We then will potentially initiate the following phase 2 this year: HIV prevention, NASH, MS, and influenza, which we could get government funding. And 5 selected indications from the pool of all potential indications. So with our current basket trial, MTNBC NASH, we are planning to conduct over 10 phase 2 clinical trials this year. So this brings us to funding and how much dilution we might get. Uplisting and signing with an investment bank. Michael Mulholland will elaborate on that, but he has been in discussions and we have very positive results to talk about, potential results. We are also signing with a prestige investment bank, and our discussions have already been completed and final agreement should be signed by this weekend. Again, no reverse split, no very dilutive fundraising, but very small dilutive fundraising. Those are all possible now because of our situation. In regards to coronavirus trials, we have about 50 patients out of 75 enrolled, and we will get update in the next few days, as we believe there will be quite a number of patients enrolled this week. But we can't guarantee that. In the last 7 to 8 weeks, we have enrolled 50 patients, which signals that it will take another 3 to 4 weeks to enroll 25 more patients. However, at this time, we can do interim analysis of 50 patients if we choose to. We can go straight to the data and take the results right to the FDA at this time. That decision will be made at the board level. Our severe or critical condition trial, CD12, is at 37. Again, if that number goes to 50, we might want to ask FDA for interim analysis for that. Our phase 3 severe critical versus remdesivir, that protocol is under development, and the phase 2 for Mexico is under development. COVID-19 for children, COVID-19 disease related to the children, available. That protocol is available for emergency IND use. So with that, let me update you in regards to HIV, our BLA priority review, and prevention work. Our BLA was submitted, and we are asking for priority review from FDA in the next few days. We also working on the prevention HIV trials, and that trial being once a month is very attractive to us, and we believe it will bring something very valuable for HIV patients, so we are going to be working on that. In regards to cancer, our basket trial is underway again after a delay because of coronavirus, and there again, results are very positive. But I would ask Dr. Jay Lalezari perhaps now to give us a little bit update in regards to basket trial and triple-negative breast cancer. Dr. Jay, please.
Yeah, hi, Nader. Hi, everybody. I know that the wait for COVID-19 is frustrating, given what strong proof of concept we had even back in early April, but I'm glad to hear we're 2/3 of the way there. And hopefully have results this June. In the meantime, leronlimab is getting a lot of attention from individuals with cancer. We have now about 10 women or so enrolled in the CDO7 compassionate use protocol. We're reviewing slides for about another 15 or 20. We've enrolled 2 patients now in the CDO9 basket study. Our 3rd patient is coming on this week, and we have 3 others starting in the coming weeks. So enrollment into the cancer studies is picking up. The COVID crisis continues to be a problem in terms of patients coming from out of town, but the incentive seems to be high enough that patients are making the trip. We saw a tickle of an effect at the lower dose at 350 milligrams, with some of the patients having circulating tumor cells go to 0. Now that we've increased the dose up to 525 milligrams, we're keen to see these results. As folks may know, when we increased the dose in HIV from 350 to 525, we seem to see a significant increase in activity. So we're at 525, enrolling both CDO7 and CDO9, and somehow making our way through the COVID nightmare. That's what I got.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it. The last update is in regard to partnership and licensing agreement. In regards to oncology, we are either in discussion or initial discussions have started with 6 companies. And in regards to COVID-19, we're in discussions or signed CDA with 5 companies, one being a big pharma in U.S., the rest outside of U.S. In regards to HIV, we are in discussion with 2 companies outside the U.S. With that, please let's go to question and answer. Operator?
Thank you. If you'd like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. A confirmation tone will indicate your line is in the question queue. You may press the star key followed by the number 2 if you'd like to remove your question from the queue. For participants using speaker equipment, it may be necessary to pick up your handset before pressing the star keys. Our first question comes from Yi Chen with H.C. Wainwright. Please state your question.
Hi, thank you for taking my questions. My first question is regarding the HIV monotherapy. Could you give us a little more color on the current development status, and also what is the likely size of patients required for the enrollment for the pivotal study? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So monotherapy, we did send the protocol to FDA, but we indicated to everyone that the FDA wants to meet with us. That meeting has been delayed due to coronavirus. But the size of the trial could be anywhere from 180 to 240. That's what we are shooting for, 3 arms, 80 patients each. In regards to the time of initiating this trial, we are hoping that trial will open up this year for enrollment, but we like to have other activities go forward. Overall, we want to have 10 phase 2 this year and 1 phase 3, which would be monotherapy.
Thank you. And for the HIV combo therapy BLA filing, do you expect the FDA to announce acceptance of the filing soon and set a PDUFA date pretty soon?
That's correct. We're waiting for that. Everybody will know that that process is between 4 to 6 weeks after you submit the BLA. So we are hoping that we will hear from FDA anytime.
Okay. And for the COVID-19 phase 2B/3 study for severe patients, could you tell us the current enrollment status?
37 patients have been enrolled, and we would like to ask the FDA to allow us to do interim analysis at 50 patients.
At 50 patients. Okay.
Correct.
And regarding the proposed head-to-head study compared with the remdesivir, do you expect that study to be initiated pretty soon as well?
Correct. We are working on that. Our focus right now is to finish the enrollment for CD10, which is the mild to moderate. That will give everybody in the world the results that we are hoping for, which our scientists all indicate they think it's going to be very, very positive. We need to get that enrolled. But we are working in parallel, but a lot of effort is being put on the enrollment. We believe we solved all the obstacles for that enrollment, but hopefully we will start the remdesivir study as soon as we can get the protocol to FDA, hopefully in the next 4 weeks or so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before I go to the next question, I talk about 10 phase 2, and I know everyone wants to know how are you going to fund this. We like to have an uplisting, and we have some discussion that Mr. Michael Mulholland have been doing with the agencies. So, Mike, could you please explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Based upon our review and evaluation of the initial listing standards, in particular NYSE American, we're very encouraged by our evaluation of these listing standards. And accordingly, we're dedicating a fair amount of resources to work closely with the exchange and our investment bank to make this happen. Upon closer review, evaluating all of the listing standards under 4A as well as the related options, we check every box very successfully. So we're moving forward to develop our business plan and are targeting to file our package in the coming weeks.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Next question, please.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Jeff Pfeiffer, retail investor. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for taking my call. I just want to have a question to kind of expand on the uplisting and partnership with the bank. So I assume in prior updates, the New York Stock Exchange was kind of marked off because of the cash requirements. Are we to assume that the deal that you've been talking about with a large bank comes with a bridge loan or somehow to raise the funding enough to meet the revenue projection cash holdings?
Yep, no, good observation. We're working with our bank to develop and to implement a different kind of funding mechanism. We still have some work to do, documents to draft, but we have it in concept, and we've shared it with the exchange, and preliminarily it has piqued their interest. So as that comes together in the weeks ahead, we'll, as we're able to do so, we'll provide you a full update.
Yeah, maybe I can add one thing that in regards to the amount of money needed for New York Stock Exchange, we will be having discussions about that. We do not want to dilute the company and raise a lot of money at these levels. We believe the levels should be much higher. Now, if we are successful to do that, we also are not going to take the option of reverse split. We will have to authorize perhaps some more shares, but it won't be that bad in my opinion, and if we do that, with these levels, you could raise $100 million with very little shares. It will be historically the best raise we ever done if the stock level is here or higher.
Great. Thank you. Very exciting. I have another question on the publication. So any update on Bruce's paper being peer-reviewed and published? And then also, if you could touch on Dr. Jonas Sasha's paper that was supposed to be presented at the CROI as a late breaking. I just never saw anything come of that. So if I could get an update on those two papers, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Bruce Patterson's paper is being reviewed right now. It's under peer review. That usually takes about, could take up to 8 weeks. So we'll hope to hear something soon. In regards to CROI, we had been accepted to CROI. However, once we announced the CROI organization did not like it that we announced it in the press release that CROI was accepted, and Dr. Jonas Sasha heard back from them that his approval of us doing that was not something that they were happy with, so they canceled his presentation.
Will his paper be released in any other?
Yes, he wanted to. He had another meeting right afterwards, but due to coronavirus, stopped.
The conference was canceled.
Yeah, what conference was that, Mike? Keystone, yeah. So Keystone had accepted it, but that result again that they had was a result about prevention study. Keep in mind, we will do, in my opinion, we should do a prevention study, small prevention study in the United States, and if the results are great, because it would be something completely different than what's out there right now, we will file for breakthrough designation for that. I mean, simple injection, sub-Q, or simple 2 injection, I should say, sub-Q once a month. If that protects patients, individual, from getting HIV, that would be groundbreaking, in my opinion. So we are definitely we will be looking at those trials. So whatever animal data that was accepted with CROI or anything, I believe we are way ahead of that. Next question, please.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Jeff Smith. Please state your question.
Hi, good afternoon, guys. Thanks for taking my question. There's been a number of items recently that have been discussed and kind of thrown out there in the media. I'd like to just see if we could comment on a few of them. One, grant funding, compassionate use, and UK as well as Mexico. And are these items at any type of a finish or climax point in the prior announcements versus now?
No, very good question, actually. So the grant, we are in the process of filling out the forms because we were told that we are welcome to apply for those, and they were since those discussions were very positive. We are very positive that the grant could happen. Of compassionate use, we had a call with the FDA. The FDA indicated that they want us to enroll the trials as quickly as we can. However, a compassionate use could delay our clinical trial. So they told us not to do compassionate use and focus on the trial. They said if you do still want to compassionate use, they're going to send us a letter saying why they believe that those trials would be slowed down if the compassionate use is given. And if we like to respond to that letter and tell the FDA that we like to have a compassionate use no matter what, then they would make a decision. However, I can tell everyone that we're not going to do that. We're not going to argue with FDA. We believe they are instructing us to do what is wise, which is finish the trial. If we just hit our primary endpoint in a much better fashion than remdesivir, then we are going to be able to impact many lives. We need to finish that, and we are focusing a lot on that. Now, in regards to UK and Mexico, UK processes had obstacles again of getting accepted. We're working through those. It's really, really disappointing the timing that it takes so much time. But in Mexico, I have been in touch with Dr. Gustavo Terran, and he's trying to finish reviewing the documents that we send them. And keep in mind, every document has to be translated in a different language, so those takes time. But they are trying to do their best to expedite, and we will do the same.
Great, thank you for that information. The last question I would have is are the lawsuits that you spoke of at the beginning of the call, those potentially material finding to the company?
Mike?
No, I would, from a monetary standpoint, they should not be, or we do not anticipate that they would be.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Will Murphy with Murphy Investments. Please state your question.
Yes, I was wondering what the status is of the Thailand PrEP trial.
So that trial also has not been going forward. That's been stopped. So Dr. Jonas Sasha still wants us to continue going forward with that trial or a similar trial in Thailand. We do have our CRO based in Thailand also, so we have asked them to expedite some clinical trial in prevention and cancer for us, and just let us know how would that look like. We're not initiating yet, so we will follow up with that. But again, when the coronavirus came and our results of what we saw, in our opinion, and our scientists were very positive, so we want to make sure that we take something that is very crucial right now, which is coronavirus. So prevention will come to, we will work on prevention also at the right time. Next question, please. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Michael Schwartz with Financial Compound. Please state your question.
Hi. Thank you for this. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sure. Go ahead, please.
Thank you for this. With the COVID-19, I heard some, I guess, like different numbers on the initial 11 patients who, how many got positive immunological benefit, if you could go over that, and also the existing 37 people that are patients that are enrolled in the phase 2b/3, if you're able to let us know how they're doing.
So the phase 2b, well, it's 2b-3, so it's a phase 3 to be clear. That trial is a pivotal trial, and it's a randomized trial, so we don't know who's getting what. So we can't give any results out till we either do interim analysis or unblind the trial and complete the trial and then unblind it. In regards to the emergency INDs in the 11 patients, as we said, the excitement that you have seen from Dr. Harish Sithem-Raju from Montefiore, and perhaps you have seen that in the public domain where he has spoke about that, is the interesting about those patients where the blood sample analysis in the laboratory showed that there was immunological benefit. Cytokine storm had reduced, RANTES has reduced at certain time, some patients quickly, some patients a little bit longer, but the results overall was fantastic because we were able to show that dealing with coronavirus means you have to deal with ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and if you are able to manage that, then you are probably saving patients' lives. That's our hypothesis. That's what we hope to do, and we are feeling very good where we are right now, and we're going to continue going forward.
I understand what you're saying about the phase 3 2b. I didn't realize that's how it works. At what point do you expect to hit where you can, I guess you're waiting for 50? What are you waiting for in order to be able to give interim results?
So interim results, we have to ask FDA. The protocol currently says when you get to 50%, we will do interim analysis. We also would like to get the CD10, the mild to moderate, completed, hopefully hit our primary endpoint, then ask FDA to allow us to do interim analysis immediately for expanded label for coronavirus. So that's the plan for right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Next question, please.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Peter Levine with Ameriprise. Please state your question.
Hi. Good afternoon or good evening. I had two questions on the EINDs. That you've increased that number. I think you're up to 60, correct? Roughly.
Yeah, we are passing 60. We might be close to 65, 70 by now.
Right. So, can you give us more on an update on the EINDs, other than, you're referencing that first 11 and the blood work's very promising, but can you give us any more information on the rest of the EINDs? And from the last information, you did give us some, but since then, I think there may have been 20 more or so. And my second question is on the recruitment for the COVID trials. I mean, it's so painfully slow, and I imagine the IRBs are slowing you down as well, but can you tell us any steps that you were taking to get this enrollment going faster?
Yes, so Dr. Scott Kelly, the chairman of our board, actually brought a person who's a doctor, and he and his colleague were both COVID-19, and they are taking the drug right now, and they are very positive about what they can do in enrollment. We also enrolled, I think, 6 sites already ready to go. The sites it's very painful to be able to get one site going. Usually the IRB of the site, which is Institutional Review Board, takes 2 to 3 months. Now, in these pandemic times, everybody wants to expedite it, but sometimes they're just not able to. And when we do get the site all set to go, then they sometimes come back and say, we have this problem. Just think about what happened with remdesivir, how many sites they had when they needed to enroll 1,000 patients. The number of sites were all over the world, and they were all over the United States. They had the peak of the pandemic, they were able to enroll all those sites with tremendous funding from NIH that allowed them to get through that very quickly. We are a little company. We barely started telling the world that, hey, we have something, and a lot of people were naysayers. So once the people are now starting to see that the distinguished professors and doctors are talking about us and saying, no, this is real, we are very happy the progress that we have made. We are very happy that FDA has given us the chance to do this. It's painful to wait, but to be honest with you, to get approval in like 3 months from the day that we started like 7 weeks ago. April 6th was when we first injected the first 2 patients and announced. So now it's been 6 weeks or so, 7 weeks. To have another 7 weeks, let's just imagine 6 or 7 weeks to get approval. These are historical timelines, and FDA wants us to expedite it. Our shareholders obviously want us to expedite it, and we want to expedite it. But we are working as hard as we can, and I think we should see a surge in enrollment. But keep in mind that we could stop the trial right now and do an interim analysis and tell FDA, here's our data. But do we want to do that when we feel like we can enroll more patients very quickly? So we will make those decisions. We are at 50 right now. 2 weeks from now, if this trial has not got to 75, closer to 75, but we feel very comfortable, I would suggest to our CRO to do an interim analysis of the first 50, because 2 weeks from now, the last patient that just enrolled perhaps a few days ago will be gone, have been gone 2 weeks. That means we know the results for 50 patients. We might do that, but that's something I'd like Dr. Scott Kelly to weigh in and let us know his opinion. I'd like for our regulatory team at Amarex to tell us what is pros and cons, and then we make a decision very carefully. But we have a lot of good things right now with this 50 patient that we enroll. We are not, this trial is not like the combination therapy in HIV, which we were not going to get anywhere unless we finish the trial. We could stop it at 55, 60, whenever we feel like we want to do it. But the results have to be spectacular, and we will be giving update about that hopefully soon.
You had, I'm sorry, thank you for the answer. The second enrollment site that you had, I forgot the name of the in North Carolina, they said they screened over 400 patients, and evidently there's a large amount of people that didn't qualify. So I'm just wondering what happened there exactly. Why do these people did not qualify for the, what are some of the requirements to qualify for the trial then?
So that's a very good question, and that's my question to the regulatory team. As soon as I saw that 400 patients that they said, I called them, and he said he didn't know about 400, but a lot of time when you have a pre-screening, there's a lot of conditions that patients don't meet. Again, that's enrollment. That's the way it goes. You have to screen quite a bit of number of patients before you can get one. And that's the challenge. As you can see, if there was 400 and they only got maybe 20, 30 patients, that's really disappointing that you cannot get more. But we have modified the protocol as we were discussing with FDA back and forth for compassionate use. They have given us some very good leeways to modify to be able to enroll faster. We made those modifications about 7 to 10 days ago, and those modifications are in full right now in process.
So you feel that this screener will accept more for this center? You feel now that they removed some of the barriers to get these people in the trials down in that second site?
Yeah, that's what I was told by our regulatory team, Dr. Kush Dodi, who's the director of our clinical trials. But again, I would like for everybody to focus. If we stop the trial right now, we could look at the data and tell the world what we have. Should we do that? Should we wait 2 weeks and do that? But if we have to wait 2 weeks to do that because the last patient has to go 2 weeks, why don't we see what we get, how many patients we get in the next 2 weeks? Because then we know exactly where we are. But the next 2 weeks is very exciting to me. So let's just do the best we can to do.
What about the remaining, from the last update, I think you have about 20 to 25 more on EINDs. Can you tell us anything about those people, those patients?
So as you heard, the patients in that update was very positive. We don't have the other patients yet because these patients, when they get involved in emergency IND, sometimes they don't send their blood samples. And because they can't send the blood samples, the doctor calls us sometime and says, we can't get this to you guys the way you want it. So can we enroll them because our patient is in bad shape? And I never tell them, oh, well, if we don't get the blood, we can't have your patients use leronlimab. Never do that. I always say enroll your patients. As long as you have IND number from FDA and everything is 100% okay with our regulatory team, don't wait. So there are patients that we don't have the results. But so we have to wait for clinical outcome, and clinical outcome doesn't happen right away. Sometimes happens a week, 2 weeks later, and then we have to wait for the doctor to enter those data and then send it to us, which is not sometimes very priority because they're saving people's lives, doing many other things for the patient. So this process, what we told you guys last time, like I said, there was a Southern California hospital, 29 patients, 9 were critical and intubated, severely ill was 20. I said 12 improved, off oxygen and discharge was 10, stable was 5, not improved yet was 1, deceased was 2. That was one of the sites, and in the critical, in that same site, the 9 critical, 3 were in a stable condition, 3 were improved, extubated or discharged, and 3 had passed away. I also talked about the 11 patients at Montefiore. I said that all of those patients, they had immunological benefits, so that was very positive. There was a paper published from Dr. Sitham Raju in New England Journal of Medicine that mentioned some of the 6 of those patients. Now he has talked about it more in the open domain, and we have other data that we said there was some other patients that we talk about that we said 13 critical and intubated, and there was 4 severely ill we had, and there was pending information on 1, which I talked about those in the last presentation. So those results alone indicates to me that we do have something that is, working, and certain patients are working very well. Now that's just my opinion. These results have to be generated in the randomized trial, and that's what FDA wants, and that's what we're doing.
Absolutely. And so just can you give us some color on your NASH? That was one of the things you mentioned. Like, where are you in that process and the indication for NASH?
So Dr. Scott Kelly is working on a very crucial test for us. He has hired a company to do an animal study, a special animal study that the results could give us a licensing agreement. We're hoping for a great result as we had already in our animal study, but that one was a different setting. We will update you on that, but the phase 2 NASH can start. We could enroll. Dr. Jailal Azari on the call could actually enroll NASH, he has told me. So we probably want to start those trials. But first thing is uplist, have appreciation on our stock, hit our primary endpoint in the COVID-19 hopefully, and then we will start quite a bit of trials. So COVID-19, hopefully we can take care of that, and COVID-19 goes away hopefully, and then you will see tremendous amount of indications that we will be working very aggressively.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Next question, please.
Next question comes from Dima Thompson. Please go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having this conference for us shareholders. We really appreciate it. You've been doing a phenomenal job in a very quick turnaround and timeline. particularly with the pandemic. Dr. Purhasan, in your opening remarks, you mentioned about manufacturing. I believe you said you have more than 1 million vials ready to go, and I know that they have a shelf life. Does that mean that someone or entity has already requested that many vials?
So thank you for your kind words. I always could use that. I appreciate that, especially in these times. But having said that, the 1 million vials is not ready to go. The first 120,000 vials will be shipped to us from Samsung in end of June. So we should have that available in the beginning of July. And then from July to the end of the year, we will receive the rest of one, and it's actually going to be 1.2 million. Now, if we get approval for coronavirus, we will immediately change that order to become larger, maybe 2 or 3 million vials. We have been in discussion with Samsung. We have told them what is happening with us, and they're very excited to help us. So we have potential to make a lot more vials. But these vials, when this product is made, you can store the product, and then at a later time you can vial them. So the shelf life on the product is different than the bulk product when it's frozen, which is could be freezed for a few years. But we are all good with the shelf life right now with what we have.
Besides Samsung Biologics, you also have ACG, I believe, right in your hometown or nearby. And anyone else involved in terms of producing and manufacturing quantities that may be necessary, particularly with COVID-19?
No, that's a great question. So AGC is also doing a good job, but they are not doing a large scale like Samsung for us. So they will have 2 run for us. They might have another 2 run for us this year, but those 4 runs together probably going to give us 60,000 vials. That's about it. What we are doing is Dr. Nitya Ray is also going to initiate discussion with Lonza if needed. But keep in mind, technology transfer takes 1 year. That's why I never can thank Dr. Scott Kelly for allowing me to bring back Dr. Nitya Ray after he quit during those 18 months. Dr. Nitya Ray set up this 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and said to us, we need the manufacturing set up with Samsung. The first year or so, it was technology transfer. So we are so grateful to him that they have all of those sets. So in this important time where we really need leronlimab, it would have been devastating if we would have told the world we have the solution to coronavirus, but the product will not be ready till the first half of next year. Some companies are saying that. Even Gilead has said that the next run of remdesivir will not be available till the next year, first quarter. That's what I heard anyway, if I'm correct.
Great. And with Dr. Ray and all the other board members, you have a great team there. I believe I saw somewhere stated 15 employees. Are you expanding the company?
Yes, absolutely. Michael Mulholland, I have asked him also to, instead of interim CFO, to become again CFO, and we will ask the board for that in our board meeting tomorrow. And I am looking forward for Michael to take over and expand the company as much as we need. He is doing a fantastic job bringing really valuable people. And Mike, do you want to say a few words about the people that you're building up?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the opportunity to comment on that. As the company moves forward, it's really critical that we plan for success and begin to staff. In prior years, we've been obviously undercapitalized, which has put a great deal of stress and burden on everybody here that has been quite dedicated. But it's important that we do build out the organization with talent so that we can leverage all of the opportunities that we have about to be presented to us. And I think that will create significant value for the shareholders. Nader?
Great. Thank you, Michael. Any other question that you might have?
No, I really appreciate your candor and all the information and the detail you give us from time to time, and do it so expeditiously and consistently. I appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Last question, please.
Thank you. Our last question comes from P.J. Chowda. Please state your question. P.J. Chowda, your line is open.
Yes. Yeah, hi. Yes, Dr. Parasan. Could you explain your recent stock sale?
Yes, absolutely. So I have been open about the exercise of my options. Information about the exercise of my option is available on the Form 4 filed with the SEC on May 4th, 2020. My lawyers have said that I should not talk about pending litigation and the option exercise and warrants that the board awarded in December, January are within the scope of the litigation. But again, I believe that the awards were reasonable then, and I believe that now. I just read that from what my attorney says to read to you guys when you ask, but I would love to elaborate a lot more on that, but because of respect for our law firm, I will stop at this point. Thank you for your question. Any other question you might have? Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay. So this concludes our shareholder meeting, shareholder conference call. I just want to let everyone know again, one more time, 50 patients enrolled. We can do interim analysis if we go and just give the results to the FDA. We're not going to do that, so we feel great to be in the position to be able to do that. We believe the results could be very fantastic, as Dr. Scott Kelly, Dr. Jay Lalazari, Dr. Bruce Patterson, they all have elaborated how excited they are. So we are sitting at some exciting time with that, but that's not what we are only focused on. Please remember, 22 different solid cancer tumor. That's a lot of indications, NASH, and many other indications. Dr. Scott Kelly has shared my vision from day one that he has entered this company, and we are very much dedicated to explore all of these options in a fashion that does not dilute the company too much. And going forward, I cannot wait to uplist this company. And Michael Mahana has done a fantastic job getting us to the point where it could be very exciting. And I hope to have some good news about that next week for the shareholders. With that, thank you again, everybody, for being on the call. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. That concludes today's conference. All parties may disconnect. Have a good day.